Welcome to Linda's Corner. My name is Linda Bjork, and today we're going to be talking about the ability to make positive changes in our lives. I'm delighted to welcome special guest, Reverend Rance Dunbar, the Chakra Doctor from Texas. Rance has overcome countless hardships in life, including poverty, homelessness, abuse, addiction, and more, to become a well-known healer and teacher. You can learn more about the Chakra Doctor on his website, chakradoctor.org, and I'll include a link in the description. Rance, thank you so much for joining with me today.
Thank you for having me, Linda. It is a pleasure to be here. And hi, everybody out there, Linda's audience. How you guys doing?
I am so glad that you're here. Would you be willing to start with your story of where you started out and then how you turned into what you are today?
Yes. So my story started in Las Vegas, and that is my mother and my father worked for the gaming. I'm about to come sit down and tell you guys. So my father worked for the gaming industry, in Las Vegas at the time. My parents are from New Orleans, Louisiana. My father is from the West Bank. My mother is from the 7th Ward of New Orleans. And so when my mother was pregnant with me, my father had a gaming license and things of that nature. And there weren't any casinos in New Orleans in the 80s, in the early 80s, late 70s. And so he went to Las Vegas to utilize his license. And so him and my mother had somewhat of a long distance relationship during pregnancy. And my mother used to visit him out there. And one visit, her water broke and she had me at a women's clinic in Clark County, Las Vegas. And so that's how I ended up being born in Clark County, Las Vegas hospital. Women's clinic in Las Vegas. And almost immediately after that, probably not even, a few months after that, I'm in my native town where I should have been born, but for some strange reason, hey, I was born in Sin City. And so from there, I never witnessed my mother and my father together in a household together. So this was their divorce was during or right after my birth. And with that, I watched my mom be a single parent and then at about 5 years old, I started experiencing abuse from my stepfather, who was her husband at the time. And so from 5 and 6 and 7 years old, that was like a beginning of the horror story: abuse, broken bones, witnessing my mom get the crap beat out of her, and witnessing horrible things happen to her because a person didn't know how to express or control their lower selves. And so it moves forward into, my mom dying at the age of 16 on Christmas Day, right? Along with other close people in my family, other close people who I can consider unconditionally loved me, right? They all died in peak, in important years, all back to back. My grandmother, which was like my second mother, my first cousin. I'm the only child of my mother and my father. And so my cousin, he was like a brother to me. He died after my grandmother. Then after he died, then my mother died. And so it was a big time of, okay, I just got over the horror story of, child abuse and all of that. But now enter into the horror story of, okay, the person who I thought was going to be here for the long haul has been taken away at, as a teenager. And that thrust me even more into a world of hopelessness, anger, doubt, greed, bitterness, hatred, jealousy, superstition, all of the negative emotions that comes with not knowing how to articulate the emotion of grief during death, how to transmute it and transform it into something higher. I wasn't taught that, even though my mother, comes from a background of a spiritual and religious background. Um, in the Black community, what I've seen is that, a lot of vital things that we're supposed to teach our children, it has missed us in a lot of ways, and in America, period. There's a lot of things that we're supposed to teach our children that we literally hold off that conversation and we don't teach them, and we let the world teach them in a screwed up manner instead of just being, just being straight up and down, honest, blunt parents like my mother was to me. And so the thing about spirituality and things of that nature. So I always grew up in a Christian home. My mother was a Pentecostal Christian, but I also witnessed her be a hoodoo priestess as well, and fused them together and was able to do both at the same time, right? And so this was a unique background. On the street that I grew up in, on the West Bank of New Orleans. I had a white best friend, a Black best friend, a Vietnamese best friend, and a Hispanic best friend, all on the same street together. So I was able to get multicultural access at an early age and know how to speak the different body languages and different cultural languages of different diasporas at an early age. All of those things mixed with the horror stories made for a great trial and error phase of my life. And I can say that trial and error phase had at least lasted until I was like about 30, 31 years old. And that was, everything from addiction to suicide attempts to, following the wrong trends, following the wrong people, drugs, recidivism, all of the things that plague Black people in impoverished communities. And so coming from that background, poverty, homelessness, and all of those other things too, lack of funds, I have a few Caucasian best friends. I asked them, hey, have you ever had to worry about your lights getting turned off? And they're like, wow, no, we never had to worry about that a day in my life. Right. It's a different reality. It's a different reality coming from the poverty state versus somebody who is teaching their children, hey, you're going to inherit this when I die. Right. So, yes. So, in an impoverished state, people sell their children or sell the souls of their children versus lift them up into the state of wealth, meaning your energy as a child can be used prematurely. I've seen in impoverished communities where women sell their daughters to prostitution. I've seen, where, certain young people get entrapped into the snares of poverty because they are predators in the snares of poverty. And so a lot of times in these group homes and all of these places like the child protective services are real horror stories behind the scenes, man. You should just look at it behind the scenes. It's really horrible. So, we have a lot of fiction to do in our infrastructure in America simply with the system that already exists, let alone building new systems, to complement them. And so coming from that background, my father also, father wasn't, he was also a Christian, but I also seen him do a little time exercising his religious practice as a Muslim, right? And he's what I would call the sometime father, when he's there sometimes, and I interact with him how he sees fit in the form of visits and things of that nature. All of that added together, made for a real poisonous environment of toxicity.
Absolutely.
It made for a real negative, pessimistic way of looking at life. Even though that wasn't the way I wanted to look at life, what other way could I look at it had I not been taught something different? So, this way of looking at life brought me into places like prison. And in these places, and I can honestly say to everybody that's listening to me right now, without those times where I was actually locked up in prison, I don't think I would have become the person who I am today. Because in prison, you have two choices: stay the same or change. And you have all the time in the world. And you have all the time in the world to do it. If, especially when somebody says, oh, you got 4 or 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years, and you're in there, though every single book behind you, I can read that. How long would it take you in your life, living your life, waking up, taking care of all of your worldly responsibilities, right? How long would it take you to read every single one of those books behind
you? Several months at least.
Several months at least, right? Every single book. I say several years. I would say that, given your schedule right now, the schedule that you possess, and everything that you do right now as a human being, included with the fact that you have to read every single book behind you, that'll take you years to do, right?
That's true. Because there's a limited amount of time available. And I guess what you're getting at is when you're in prison, all of that time could be used doing this.
All of that time could be used to read those books. And so the time that it would take you to read all of those books, I got that time done in 3, 4, 5 years, right?
Gotcha.
And so with that accelerated, I call it that microwave cooking. It was just a microwave cooking of self-teaching every time I went, because even though you go and you don't want to come back, it is your habits that must change, your mind that must change, the people, the places, the things, and all of the things that I didn't know that you need to change in order. I didn't know that friends association brings on assimilation. I didn't know that I think, therefore I am, and so I will attract it, right? I didn't know that, hey, if I keep speaking this negative thing in my life, it will keep regurgitating itself in the presence of my life, right? And so when you look at all of the things that I did know, it's a miracle that I made it this far. It's a miracle that I even made it here today. Look at all of the ignorance, and my name is Rance, and the root of ignorance is Rance, right? So look at all of the ignorance that I had to go through in order to trial and error my way into this level of spiritual mastery. So it was those times in prison that each time I was able to upgrade myself a little bit. And then I went back out and I went back to my old habits, my old ways. And I try to do the right thing the wrong way. Then I go back and I upgrade myself a little bit. Okay, I think I got it this time. And I go back out and the world distracts me. Something happens, like life happens when you're on a mission and you're on a goal. And, if you're not taught that, hey, you must buckle down the hatch, stay humble and keep going, you'll give up. You'll be like, F this crap. I don't want to do this. I'm going to do something else. This isn't meant for me. I knew I shouldn't have done it anyway. All of the negative things that you tell yourself when you are giving yourself an excuse to fail. And so, hanging around the people that I was hanging around and all of this stuff, it was just a cluster fuck of negativity that I just kept slowly but surely snipping away from my life. I can say that I slowly but surely snipped away every single negative vice, snare, and web that had me entangled, over time. And so, and the final time is when Chakra Doctor was birthed, and I became enlightened, and I opened up my chakras, created my yoga and everything, all of that, and completely. A lot of people meet me and I tell them my backstory and they say, nah, no way. You can have never in a million years been that person. And that's the one biggest thing that I love. The drastic change in my life, so much so that, this 9th grade dropout and all of those negative things turned into a full-time entrepreneurship of health and wellness, turned into my own natural intracellular detox cleansing healing regimen. Here I've healed over 20,000 people. I've touched lives, life after life after life. I've improved. When the situation was down here, I came into the situation, I dedicated my positive energy, and now the situation is up here. I've created entrepreneurs. I've done things for the human diaspora that you can never put in a record book. but it's forever etched into my soul, into my being, and to the beings of the people that I help along the way. And so, you know, netting a multi-millionaire business partner from Mumbai, India, right? Starting African-American, starting an actual corporation with an Indian-American and making it successful into a passive income business, right? Married with my own kids, and, the things that my mother told me, now I'm telling them, and, all of the things that I never thought I would make it to see or be. I'm actually living proof that, yes, you can change your life from nothing to something. You can go from zero to hero, and it doesn't have to take forever. All it has to take is the effort that says you want to make a definite change. And it's going to be a burning desire, like they tell you in Think and Grow Rich. It has to be a burning desire. It has to be an obsession. You have to be so obsessed with doing the opposite of what you're doing now that when people see you, they don't even recognize you. Like, people see me today and wouldn't even recognize me versus the old me. That's how much I've changed. I've changed so much that the old me, when people see the old me, it's a reminder of where one can come from and where one can end up. And so, becoming in tune with the spirit, teaching people about their chakras, teaching people how to become positive thinkers, creating, programs after programs and systems that help people just get into a positive state of being so that they can start attracting health, wealth, abundance into their life is just, I'm so grateful that I went through all of that horror. Be grateful for your horror story, because it is there for a reason. It's there to teach you a lesson, and that lesson is going to be a big, wonderful hero story. So I'm so grateful that I went through all of the pain, the torment, the anguish, the suffering, the lies, the cheating, the stealing, the all of the ignorance, the stupidities, all of the times where I thought I wasn't going to make it, and all of the times where on the times, forgiving myself for attempting suicide on myself, all of these things, just show me that when you have a soul's mission and you're meant to be here, you better damn well follow it.
Wow. Wow. Okay. You are one of my heroes, and this is fantastic. You have so many incredible aspects to your story, and the things that you have gone through and the things that you have experienced uniquely qualify you to reach a demographic of people that the others could not ever touch, because they would say,
Right.
You don't understand. You don't understand what it's like. And you can
Right.
say, well, actually, I can, because I have experienced this, and I have experienced this, and I have been there, and I have done that. And so you leave people without an excuse. And I think that is beautiful and amazing.
No excuse. That was all right. So a little cheat code, guys. When I tapped into my chakras and I created the FCA yoga exercise, the FCA yoga guided meditation. FCA stands for Full Chakra Activation. And Full Chakra Activation is a guided meditation where this is how I gained the name Chakra Doctor. And it's a guided meditation where I guide one into physically feeling as a physical representation permeating throughout your whole body. Physically feel your chakras. And we have more than 7, like the basic 7 like they teach us about. And so it was creating that exercise is how I became Chakra Doctor. Now, through that exercise and through becoming, this sage or spiritual guru, because, that's how I was able to become business partner with the Indian, millionaire, because, the chakras and that technology is in India. Right. And so for a Black man to be teaching Indian people how to activate the highest points of their chakras, that was a unicorn in California at the time. And the reason why I went to California, to answer your question, is because, first and foremost, New Orleans only has a small amount of people. And with something like the chakras and, positive affirmations and, a brand that's based in health and wellness, New Orleans is not the market for that, right? Where you're going to say, hey, you're going to become this big, successful health and wellness brand in New Orleans, by New Orleans, supported by New Orleans. There's not enough people, not enough people, not enough interest to, to say, hey, I'm going to succeed in that. But go to the places where these things are plentiful at. And the one place where it was plentiful at was California. Millions of people who are interested in health and wellness. Health and wellness brands galore, vegan festivals and, yoga forever, name a yoga. It's out there. So that was the pool. That was the place where I needed to play. And so I literally left everything behind in New Orleans and I flew to California and slept out of my friend's car and said, this is where I'm going to start it at. And by golly, here I am now, on my own land, and it doesn't seem like so long ago, because it was only in 2017 when I incorporated in 2017. All right, I created everything in 2015, but I licensed, trademarked, incorporated, got everything legit all the way up and down the board, ordained ministry and everything in 2017. So it's only been 4 years and some change that Dr. Gandhi and I have been doing this, and we're already in the level of, a passive income state independently. We're doing it independently of our own marketing tactics, our own strategies, our own know-how. And it has been a very, very beautiful thing to see that a ninth grade dropout, kid from the gutter can now, doctors come to me for vaccination exemptions in the medical field, and, police officers and, people that work right now, people who are working right now in the public arena are coming and say, hey, Chakra Doctor, let me get a vaccination exemption letter from you. Let me buy some miracle food from you so I can get a vaccination exemption letter from you. Man, hey, can you attest to be my spiritual leader as a pastor so that we don't have to get the jab? This is what my followers, are coming to tell me. And it boggles me to this day, how did I make it? And I always tell people, and I always just say, it got to be magic. It has to be a magic wand with a fairy godmother somewhere waving that wand and just going pop and twinkling her nose like the bewitched lady, and just making things, just making things happen. So it's a wonderful chance to actually articulate that to people that come from those real tough bottom places where I come from, right? And also, it's a wonderful lesson that people who don't come from there get to learn. It's like I'm getting a chance to bridge the gap. I get a chance to articulate and talk to the highly educated and the people who never knew what it was like to eat ramen noodles versus, the lowly educated and all they know is high fructose corn syrup and, cereal and, and pork, right? And I get to articulate to both worlds and get them to understand each other. Right. And so it's a beautiful thing.
That is amazing. And when you're teaching true principles, that applies to everyone. It does bridge gaps.
Yes.
Because there shouldn't be a gap.
Yes.
Truth is truth. And it is the truth for every color. It is the truth for every gender. It is the truth for every socioeconomic standard. Truth is truth.
Yeah.
And so that is beautiful that you're able to have something that you can connect with. So tell me a little bit more about this vaccination exemption letter. What are you doing?
So as a natural holistic healer and an ordained minister, for those of you who work in the public arenas are the arenas that are controlled by the state and the federal government, like hospitals, firefighters, police officers, librarians, county workers, state workers, people who work at banks, or any kind of places that are under the mandates of federal law or state government law. When your rights in these arenas are paid, their salaries in these arenas are paid for our tax dollars, are paid for by our tax dollars, versus a private corporation. It's not. A private corporation, they can say, hey, you're going to get this vax or you're not going to work here, and there's nothing you can do about it because it's a privately owned corporation. I do what I want with my corporation. But when it's a public arena, it's considered public office, and public office has to follow the guidelines and regulations of federal law and state mandated law. And federal law and state mandated law states that you have the rights to what they call waive any type of inoculations performed by any state or government entities with exemption reasons. And that exemption reason, two of those exemption reasons are medical exemptions and religious exemptions. Do you know that it is your right in the United States Constitution to freedom of religion? Just like you got a freedom of speech, freedom to carry guns, freedom to do this, freedom to do that, you have a freedom of religion. And so there are actual scriptures in the Bible that support that you're not supposed to be getting inoculated by the hands of men, but by the herbs and the fruits and the spices that God has put here for you to partake in. So number one, as a ordained minister, I always recommend people to eat healthy. And when I say eat healthy, that's, the raw fruits and vegetables that are found in my miracle food detox regimen, as well as I tell people to activate their chakras and tune into the Mother Earth and get into spirituality and tune into that consciousness of Christ. We get caught into the character of Christ and not the consciousness of Christ. The character of Christ was cool, but the consciousness of Christ is who we are. We're able to walk, talk, and act just like he did in the Bible. So let's analyze these things from a perspective, and that's considered spirituality as an ordained minister. So that considered that, and in the public arena, that considered me a faith leader. So I, as your faith leader, when you purchase particular products or services from the brand, you are automatically eligible for the vaccination exemption attestation letters from me, personally signed by me, and with my brand trademark logo, with my brand's trademark logo, my church ordination, and the ministry that ordained me as well. So my name is a reverend, and my titles as founder and CEO of MyFCA Inc. Will be your validation to exemption. Medical exemption number one, because of the ingredients found in my all-natural miracle food intracellular detox healing regimen. Okay, it is 100% all natural ingredients, and the vaccine is 100% all unnatural ingredients, which blatantly
that's true.
Yes, and so which blatantly contradicts this 100% all natural dietary regimen that you are taking, and it immediately puts your health at risk. That's number one. And then with this is the spirituality of it. We are practicing this regimen of all natural eating, all natural cleansing and detoxing, because it strengthens the spirit and it promotes a higher level of spirituality, which now falls in the level of in the world of religion. So my religious credentials, as well as my corporate credentials, are the stamps, are the heavyweights that make the vaccination exemptions work for the people who work in the public arenas. Now, for the private arenas, I've seen it work, but it is not guaranteed. But for the public arenas, they automatically give you a option for exemption. So if you're working at any public arena and they're trying to mandate the vaccination, all you have to do is say, I filed for an exemption, and they're going to tell you, bring me your exemption proof. And you're going to bring them that exemption proof from my brand and my church. And voila, you are exempt from the vaccine, just like Joe Biden exempted his staff and his board and his administration from the vaccine. You guys ever wonder why when you go to court, you have to put your hand on the Bible? So help me God, because the Bible is considered a legal instrument and tool. And so we have to realize and utilize these tools that are right in front of our face that we can use so that we don't have to get shot under duress. We can do this. If we want to get the shot, let it be our own free will, but don't force us to get the shot, force us to put something foreign into our bodies that we do not agree with.
I love that idea. I think anyone who chooses to, please go right ahead. But I also do not like the idea of someone trying to force me. That feels so wrong, wrong on every level. So in order to be
Yes.
to qualify for that, they just have to go to your website and get some of your
Just go to
products.
my website. They can go to my website and they can purchase the Miracle Food Bundle on the home screen, on the home page. When they purchase their Miracle Food Bundle, they can easily call in and say, "Hey, I purchased my bundle and I want to get my vaccination exemption paper." And literally, I will email it to them so they can have it and they can print it for themselves, customized for their name, their birthday, and their information. And voila, they will be able to bring that into their public arena and show that as an exemption of medical exemption and religious exemption.
That is fantastic. And is that
Yeah.
also where people go to learn how to do your chakra yoga?
Yes. The FCA yoga. So the FCA yoga is also on the website. You hit the tab and it's for free. The FCA yoga is for free. So you go on my website, click on the tab, hit the tab that says FCA yoga, and there's a free guided meditation. All you take is your earbuds, put it in your ear, lie down or sit up in your chair and close your eyes and let my voice be your guide. And I take you on a journey to activating all of your chakras and you physically feel them as a physical representation. Got some cool music that is helping you vibrate and helping you raise your vibration through each chakra. Got some breathing exercises, got some affirmation exercises during the meditation. It is a wonderful guided meditation and it is for free. And that's how I started off. Without FCA yoga, I wouldn't have been able to change my life. Without the power of the chakras and me tapping into the power of my chakras, I'd still be the impoverished mind wondering how to get out of hell versus the enlightened mind that is teaching people how to get out of hell.
Wow. Okay, I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that, and thank you for sharing this gift. I really appreciate it. I'm excited. I got to go check out your website. I did a little bit. I watched one of the testimonials, but I didn't explore everything and learn about the yoga. So thank you for explaining that because I'm excited to
Yes.
check that out.
I definitely and for you, Linda, I can definitely activate your chakras. I can activate your chakras for you for free. You know, thank you for having me on. I would come on your show and do it, or we can do it, outside of the show, and I can show you how wonderful it feels. It takes it little 15-20 minute it's a 15-20 minute version of it, and there is a long version of it, the 1 hour version of it. Both of them are wonderful and cool, and I would love to show you whenever you have the time.
That is fantastic. So the one on your website, is that the short one or the long one, or do you have both?
The one on my website is the long one. Aha. The one on my website is the long one. The one on
So
my website is the long one, and the short one, I give examples, and I'm about to post the short one on my YouTube channel on the 23rd, I believe. 23rd, I'm gonna finally post the short one, but I will always keep the long one up there because I want people to get what's called full chakra activation, because I want people to get the full exercise of what I went through creating the guided meditation. If I give you the 20-minute version, you're missing a part of the meditation that was created to help you out, So that's why I always let people have the full version on the website.
wow. Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you for everything. I have learned so much and I really appreciate you being here.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it as well. And once again, please, everybody, just hit me up, 818-429-1675, or you can go to chakradoctor.org and hit me up. Thank you for having me on. It's been a pleasure.
Oh, it's been a pleasure for me as well. In closing, I'd like to share a quote from Oprah Winfrey. She said, "The smallest change in perspective can transform a life. What tiny attitude adjustment might turn your world around?" Today, I invite you to choose one tiny attitude adjustment that will make your life better. See you next time on Linda's Corner.